The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my Ford struggling to keep up. Atlanta traffic was, as always, a nightmare, and I just wanted to get back to my cozy house, a warm meal, and my wife, Bronwyn. I was an IT specialist working for a mid-sized company downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and I enjoyed the work. I was 46 and Bronwyn was, well, her age wasn't really something we discussed. Let's just say she was younger, a lot younger, which I admit sometimes made me insecure, but she always reassured me, told me I was the only man for her. We'd been married for 7 years, met at a coffee shop, click as it sounds. I was instantly smitten by her fiery red hair and quick wit. She was an artist, a painter, and I loved that about her. She saw the world in a way I never could. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, or so I thought. Lately, though, things had been off. Bronwyn had been distant, spending more time in her studio, claiming she was working on a new collection. She'd been going out more too, saying she was meeting with clients or attending art shows. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted her, implicitly. That was my first mistake. The traffic finally started to ease up and I pulled into our driveway. The house was dark, which was unusual. Bronwyn usually had a light on, even if she was in her studio. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, calling out her name. Bronwyn, honey, I am home. Silence. I walked through the living room, the dining room, and headed towards her studio at the back of the house. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The sight that greeted me ripped my world apart. Bronwyn was there, all right, but she wasn't alone. She was in the arms of another man, a younger man. They were kissing passionately, oblivious to everything else. My breath hitched. My heart slammed against my ribs. The blood drained from my face. I couldn't speak. I just stood there, frozen, watching the woman I loved betray me in the most intimate way possible. They finally broke apart and Bronwyn turned around, her eyes widening in shock when she saw me. The man, a scrawny guy with a pretentious goatee, smirked. Well, 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 he said, look who it is. The cuckold himself. Cuckold. The word hit me like a physical blow. I wanted to lash out, to punch him, to scream, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed by the sheer disbelief of it all. Garrett, Bronwyn said, her voice trembling, this isn't what it looks like. Oh, really? I managed to croak out. Because it looks an awful lot like my wife is cheating on me with some hipster. Garrett chuckled. She deserves better than you, old man. She needs someone who can appreciate her, someone who understands her art. And you think that's you? I asked, my voice rising. Absolutely, he said, puffing out his chest. Bronwyn and I have a connection, a bond that you could never understand. I looked at Bronwyn, searching her eyes for some sign of remorse, some indication that this was all a horrible mistake, but there was nothing. Just a cold, calculating look that I'd never seen before. Is that true, Bronwyn? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Is that how you feel? She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yes, Garrett is right. I've been unhappy for a long time, Quentin. You're just not the man I need. Those words were like a dagger to the heart. I staggered back, feeling like I was going to be sick. 7 years. 7 years of love, laughter, and shared dreams, all reduced to nothing by a few stolen kisses and a pretentious artist. Get out, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Both of you. Get out of my house. Garrett smirked again. It's her house too, old man. Not for long, I said, my eyes narrowing. I'm filing for divorce. And you can be sure I'll be taking you for everything you're worth, Bronwyn. She scoffed. You think I care about money? I am an artist, Quentin. I live for passion, for creativity, not for material possessions. Then you want mine living in a cardboard box, I said, turning and walking out of the studio. I went straight to the liquor cabinet and poured myself a generous glass of whiskey. I downed it in one gulp, the burning liquid doing little to soothe the pain in my chest. I couldn't believe this was happening. My life, my marriage, everything I thought I knew was crumbling around me. I spent the rest of the night in a drunken stupor, alternating between sobbing and cursing Bronwyn's name. The next morning I woke up with a pounding headache and a profound sense of emptiness. The events of the previous night replayed in my mind, each detail searing itself into my memory. I knew I couldn't stay in that house. Every room, every object would be a constant reminder of Bronwyn's betrayal. I packed a bag, threw in a few essentials, and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get away. I ended up at a cheap motel on the outskirts of Atlanta. The room was dingy and smelled of stale cigarettes, but it was a temporary escape from the wreckage of my life. I spent the next few days in a daze, barely eating, barely sleeping. I called my boss and told him I needed some time off. He was understanding, thankfully. I couldn't imagine trying to focus on work while my heart was being ripped to shreds. I knew I had to face reality eventually. I couldn't hide in this motel room forever. I needed to find a lawyer, file for divorce, and start the process of rebuilding my life. But the thought of it all was overwhelming. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of despair. One evening, as I was scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself from my misery, I stumbled upon a post from a mutual friend. It was a picture of Bronwyn and Garrett, holding hands and smiling like a pair of love-struck teenagers. The caption read, "So happy for these two lovebirds. True love always finds a way." I felt a surge of anger so intense it took my breath away. True love. This wasn't true love. This was betrayal, deceit, and selfishness. I couldn't let them get away with this. I couldn't let them rewrite the narrative and portray themselves as the victims. I needed to fight back. I started by contacting a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Genevieve. I explained the situation to her, laying out all the details of Bronwyn's affair and my desire to get a divorce. Genevieve listened patiently, then said, "I understand your anger, Quentin, but you need to focus on the legal aspects of this case. We need to gather evidence, assess your assets, and develop a strategy. Revenge won't get you anywhere." I knew she was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do more than just file for divorce. I needed to expose Bronwyn and Garrett for who they really were. I needed to make them pay for the pain they had caused me. Genevieve advised me to keep my emotions in check and let her handle the legal proceedings. She assured me that she would fight for my rights and ensure that I received a fair settlement. I reluctantly agreed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something more. As Genevieve started building my case, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I started digging into Garrett's background, researching his art career, his past relationships, anything that might give me an edge. It didn't take long to discover that Garrett wasn't exactly the struggling artist he portrayed himself to be. He came from a wealthy family, and his art career was largely funded by his parents. He had a history of dating older women, preying on their insecurities and using them for their money and connections. The more I learned about Garrett, the more disgusted I became. He was a fraud, a parasite, and Bronwyn had fallen for his lies. I knew I had to expose him. I decided to create an anonymous blog detailing Garrett's true background and his manipulative behavior. I posted photos, financial records, and testimonials from his former girlfriends. I didn't mention Bronwyn by name, but I made it clear that he was currently involved with a married woman. The blog quickly gained traction, and soon Garrett's reputation was in tatters. Art galleries canceled his exhibitions, and his wealthy parents threatened to cut him off. He was a pariah in the art world. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings were moving forward. Genevieve had uncovered evidence of Bronwyn's affair, which strengthened my case. Bronwyn, realizing that she was losing control, became increasingly desperate. She tried to gaslight me, claiming that I was imagining things, that Garrett was just a friend, that I was the one who had driven her away with my insecurities and lack of attention. But I didn't fall for it. I had seen her with my own eyes. I knew the truth. The divorce was finalized a few months later. I received a generous settlement, including the house, which I promptly sold. I didn't want to live there anymore, surrounded by memories of Bronwyn's betrayal. She ended up moving in with Garrett, who was now living in a small apartment, struggling to make ends meet. His art career was over, and he was forced to take a job as a barista at a coffee shop. The irony was delicious. I moved to a new city, a fresh start, a chance to rebuild my life. I found a new job, made new friends, and started exploring new hobbies. It wasn't easy. The pain of Bronwyn's betrayal lingered for a long time, but I refused to let it define me. I refused to let her win. I learned to trust again, to love again, and to appreciate the simple things in life. A few years later, I received an unexpected email from Bronwyn. She was begging for forgiveness, claiming that she had made a terrible mistake, that Garrett had used her, and that she realized I was the only man who had ever truly loved her. I deleted the email without responding. I had moved on. I had found happiness again. Bronwyn's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had also been a catalyst for change. It had forced me to reevaluate my priorities, to discover my own strength, and to create a new, better life for myself. The rain has stopped now and the sun is shining. I'm sitting on my balcony overlooking the city, sipping a cup of coffee. I'm a different man than I was 7 years ago. I am stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Bronwyn's betrayal may have broken my heart, but it also taught me a valuable lesson, that I am capable of surviving anything and that true happiness comes from within. And as I look out at the bright, new day, I know that my best days are still ahead of me. Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? Sometimes the worst things that happen to us can lead to the greatest transformations. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. It's been a long and difficult journey, filled with pain, heartbreak, and betrayal. But I've emerged from the darkness stronger and more resilient than ever before. Remember, even in the face of unimaginable betrayal, you have the power to rebuild your life and find happiness again. Don't let their actions define you. Define yourself. And never ever give up on the possibility of a brighter future. It's out there, waiting for you. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember that you are not alone. Your story matters, and you have the strength to overcome anything life throws your way.